Transportation Committee to order. Good afternoon and welcome. The Transportation Committee reviews items of interest regarding all modes of transportation in the city of Oshkosh, including motor, transit, bike, and pedestrian. We are an advisory committee, and our favorable recommendations today will go before the Oshkosh Common Council as needed. The council can accept or reject any recommendation from this committee. If you don't agree with our decision, you can discuss the item with any council member. If the committee does not recommend an item to Common Council member, a Common Council member may sponsor a new ordinance regarding this item. All ordinance items require 2 readings before the Common Council. The first reading will take place on Tuesday, September 24th at 6 p.m. and you will be allowed to comment on the item at that time, though the council will take no action. On Tuesday, October 8th at 6 p.m., the item will be on a second reading, at which time the council will take action. You will again be allowed to speak. For this afternoon's meeting, I'll read each agenda item, at which time, if you'd like to speak, please step up to the podium and give your name and address. I do ask you to keep your comments pertinent to the agenda item. The item will then come back to the committee for discussion and action as necessary. This committee has 2 alternate members who are allowed to participate in discussion but not make motions or be included in roll call votes on agenda items, with the exception of the initial roll call and minutes for approval. The committee has adopted a public participation policy which provides 15 minutes for public comment. Citizens must provide their name and address and speak on matters related to transportation issues within their authority. Comment should be addressed to the committee members and not to staff. Items on the agenda should be addressed at the time the item is read, not during the open period for public comment. Statements are limited to 3 minutes, and citizens may only provide comment 1 time, unless permission is granted. Written comments sent to the city will be distributed to the committee members and become part of the public record. Let's do the roll call vote, and then we'll.
Staple?
Here.
Armstrong?
Here.
Merritt?
Here.
Hartman?
Here.
Esslinger?
Here.
Lynch?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Okay. Do we have anyone wanting to speak on issues not related? You do, sir? Please step to the podium. Give us your name and address, please.
Tim Neubauer, address is 322 Court Street here in Oshkosh. Oh, you're gonna say something, or I can just
You're
go?
good.
Okay, perfect.
You're good.
I currently own what's the Corbett House. It is Victorian, the black one, over across from the YMCA on the corner of Washington and Court. There is a bus stop right there. Actually, it's the shelter, which is the problem. I've been complaining numerous times on like the C-Click fix to the transit, police. Everybody tells me it's somebody else's thing. What we're having problems with is homeless people either sitting there all day, smoking, profanity, stuff like this, and then we've been getting a lot of people sleeping at night. I understand why it was put there, because previous that place was a triplex and then pretty much sat vacant for like the last 7 to 10 years. But I'd like to point out that I haven't seen a single one in front of a single residence home at all anywhere. And now that this home will be a single residence, this thing is placed directly in the corner, and we have a huge living room window. It's within about 20 feet. You can see everything inside our home. We've had multiple trespassing of homeless people that just wander from there onto our property. If you ever checked how many times I've called the police on this, it's been quite a bit. Summertime, like actual bus people don't actually even sit in it because it's usually too warm. Instead, they sit on my front lawn or my front sidewalk steps. I have tons of pictures to just show like how many people take residency in there, how many people just sit on my lawn, and then I'm picking up garbage every day. People just either leave it in a bus stop or they leave it on my lawn. I mean, we had somebody took their full diaper and just smashed it on the sidewalk, and it sat there for 2 weeks before I finally called to see if somebody would actually come clean it up, because I didn't want to do it. And apparently I was told that people who drive the buses are supposed to make sure those stay clean or report it. It sat for a couple weeks, but I've been trying to maintain it just because I don't like all the stuff being littered everywhere. But like I said, we'll be moving in there hopefully in like 2 or 3 weeks after the city comes through. We have 7 children, and with the homeless people that we've had issues there with vulgar swearing, yelling, there's been a couple people that are just seem a little bit unhinged that just hang out in there all day. Lately, we've had a resident or a lady that sits in there from 2 to 10 hours per day, and she just sits there on her phone, never moves. She's been doing that the last 6 days. That's our newest person. 2 nights ago, I had somebody different sleeping in there. Well, she slept in there 2 nights, actually. I did put a thing on C-Click Fix, and all I got pretty much was that Transportation Department is doing what they can to prevent loitering on non-business hours for the bus. However, I'm pretty sure nobody in transportation works later than 5. So it's really hard to help that loitering issue.
So what is your request?
My request, I'm sorry, I've spoke with River East. So transportation tells me that River East bought or wanted that one there. River East did not want that one there. It was 2 other ones that they wanted. So River East has no problem with that being moved. I have no problem with the actual bus stop and the people that use it. I have a problem with the shelter. If we can just make that into just a bus stop and remove the shelter, I would be greatly appreciated. I think it would take away a lot of our homeless problems in front of our house. And like I said, these people come walking on our property. My kids have gone outside, right out our back door, and found them just sitting there on our property. I mean, I don't know what's going on, but it's unnerving. And then especially you sit in your living room and you just got groups of people just hanging out there.
Right. Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, approval of minutes. Call the roll. Oh, we have a motion, I'm sorry. I was thinking about that young man's problem and not about the next step here. All right, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Also move. Oh,
Do we have
okay.
a second?
Second.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Staple,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Merritt,
Aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Esslinger,
Aye.
Lynch,
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
New business, request to convert from a yield control to stop controlled intersection at intersection of West 12th and Minnesota.
All right, this is a citizen request that there, as a result of a most recent crash, but there have been numerous residents that have contacted council and me and over the last probably a month and a half or so after the latest crash, and we're asking if this intersection could be converted from a yield to a stop. So I did do the research on it. Generally, you know, as most of you know, they've been around a little bit, we look for crash history, if there's any vision triangle issues, if there are sufficient traffic counts to see if it meets the warrants. So the traffic counts, as you would expect, are pretty low in this area. But I did look at the recent crash reports, and since January of 21, there have been 3 crashes, and they were all this year. And they were in January, March, and July of this year. And so I can see where the residents were getting concerned because they were all pretty relatively close together time-wise. And I did look at this too. You can see here that all 3 of those crashes were failures to yield. And this corner, it is pretty difficult to see around this building. It's typical in some of our older areas of the city. A lot of the buildings are right up to the corner of the right-of-way line. So there is a little bit of a visual obstruction here. So based on the visual obstruction as well as the crash history, I would support and recommend converting this to a stop control. I think that would help improve the situation. At least people would stop and look before they proceed.
Well, I drove by there myself, and that building is very close to the road. You really can't see traffic until you edge out almost into the intersection.
Which you're gonna have to do with the stop sign too. 'cause
Correct.
At least you're
But you're stopped before you do
stopping
that.
first, yes.
All right, do we have a motion to, first a motion to approve.
So moved.
Jim moved. Got a second?
Second.
Paul second. Mr. Esslinger? Any other comments on this particular issue? No? All right, call the roll, please.
Staple,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Merritt,
Aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Esslinger.
Aye.
Can I interrupt for just 1 second?
Please.
The person who spoke there, just
Yes.
so they know what's happening, is that something we talk about this time, or if it's going to come on the agenda, it would have to be next meeting, or what happens if
Yes.
we want to do something with that, just so he knows
Yes,
what's
it
going
would-
on?
Right. My intent was to ask Jim to have that as an agenda item for our next meeting, because I don't feel we're in a position, just hearing it today, we need, Jim, we need your analysis of the situation. So my intent was to have Jim come back to the committee next, in October, with a recommendation on what to do.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would just show up to the next meeting and I could find out, or
Sure.
should I hang out today, or?
No, come back, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim, that was a good.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
We don't have to leave, but
Yeah, I got kids at home, so, and dinner, so, awesome, thank you guys.
Watch out for those diapers.
Yep.
All right. Agenda item 2, update parking regulations around the new Menominee Elementary School.
Yeah, this I didn't pull up here because I think it's relatively simple, but I'll answer any questions. But basically, since the school was reconstructed, the new school went up and it's now open. So I worked with the school district's facilities manager. Most of the parking regulations are similar to what they were prior, although he did have 2 requests. So we worked together on this. There is, on Melvin Avenue, there's a bus loading zone between Hazel and Oak Street. He said they no longer use that area for buses. So he asked that that just be a regular loading zone like the rest of the front of the school is, because they no longer need that for buses. And then there is a small handicapped 65-foot section on the west side of Hazel. It's actually a little less than that because of the corner clearance. But anyway, now they accommodate that, the handicap parking in their parking lot. So he said that they don't really need that for that purpose either. So he was just asking that, that those basically be loading zones to match the other parts of the areas. I told him we temporarily sign it and I'd get it on this agenda, and then once it's formally approved, we can make the formal change. But so far, they're a weekend and said it's functioning as they intended.
Is the entrance to the school on Hazel? Or where on here is the entrance?
They have an entrance on all 3 sides of the building, basically. So they have one on Hazel.
But public can only go in one of the entrance, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. Which is on Hazel?
That I couldn't tell you for sure.
I believe it's on Hazel.
Okay.
All right,
I have one other question. Why is the loading zone for that many hours when especially for the buses are only there a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the afternoon, but yet the loading zone is for the whole day?
Right, so it prevents cars from parking there, so then.
They might park early and then the bus
Right,
comes and can't go in.
exactly.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
okay. Do we have a motion to approve the multiple modifications to the parking around the new Menominee Elementary and Middle School? Isn't that middle school too?
No, that's just not.
It's elementary? Okay.
Move it.
Paul moved it?
Second.
Who moved it? I lost. All right, Mr. Esling moved it. Second is Jeff, okay. Any other comments, questions? All right, call the roll on this item, please.
Staple,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Merritt,
Aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Esslinger.
Aye.
All right, update parking regulations on Algoma.
This is basically, as we redid the bus stops with the transit development plan, and we'll talk a little bit more, it sounds like, about this at the last meeting, or at the next meeting. But anyway, this shelter in particular was removed because this is no longer, the bus no longer travels down Algoma this way, it now goes up high the other way. So we no longer need this no parking area. It's not quite that big now. This is the old photo before the street was reconstructed. So I worked with the university's police chief, who's in charge of their parking as well, and he is currently requesting that we transition that to 60-minute parking, because obviously without the bus stop there, we should use that cutout for some purpose. He had some other ideas about maybe making it paid parking at some point in time, but we're not quite there yet. So I said for now, the 60-minute parking seems appropriate, and then we can have further discussions about where the paid and display parking is going to go in the future.
So moved.
Okay, Jim moves. Got a
Second.
Evelyn seconds.
Question? What will happen to the shelter?
Right now, we are evaluating where, once we get some more ridership data, where the shelter should be placed,
Just for the university, probably in a different spot,
possibly.
or some, yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the ridership. So we have a couple shelters that we moved to different locations. Yeah, like I said, we'll talk a little more in detail about it at the next meeting based on his, but, so there are a couple shelters that were removed, a couple of them are being relocated, and then a couple of them we're kind of waiting to see what the most logical location is for. So.
Thanks.
All right. We had a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Staple,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Merritt,
Aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Esslinger.
Aye.
All right, update parking regulations in the rec department parking lot.
Yeah, so these next three are request as we have, a couple months ago, as you remember, we added some leased spaces, and then we also added some more, or the option to purchase leased spaces, I should say, and then we also allocated some additional 2-hour parking stalls at the request of the bid board. Since then, we also started a little bit, or the police department started enforcing parking regulations, and since then a couple issues have arose. These I think are some simple things that the rec department, there were a couple people that had got citations there, that currently the parking there is rec department only or permit. So there's not anything currently designated as 2-hour parking. So I know they had some visitors that I talked to that said, well, we were just there to play pickleball for an hour or so, and we weren't really sure what the rec department, if that was just for the employees. Another part was permits. So they said, yes, we did park where it said permit, but we weren't sure where we were supposed to park. So I talked to the rec department director, and we both came to agreement that maybe we should add some 2-hour parking in there so it's clear. And then I'm also working with them on the rec department signage to see if we can make that a little more clear too, because it's designed for users and or employees, but I think the wording might be a little confusing. But in the interim, he thought that the 2-hour parking, at least then for those people that are just there, to be real clear that you have that short-term parking, or anybody that's coming there for anything could use it.
Is that what reserved is, what means 2-hour?
No, it would be, currently the reserved it says rec department only currently, and that's what we're working on, the wording of the signage. So this would be taking a row of those stalls and converting it from reserved to 2-hour parking.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Actually, from permit to 2-hour parking issues.
And you
So is
don't-
it the purple or the yellow?
I'm not looking at the map, but I believe it's the purple is permit and the yellow is reserved. So that row of purple in the middle will become 2-hour, the one right next to the yellow.
Jim?
I guess I'd make a motion to get it on the floor anyhow,
Good, thank you.
approve that change.
Second.
And so, right now, you're not selling all the permits anyhow, so you're not losing any revenue?
Right, yep, exactly.
Okay.
I did I did do some surveillance of the lot, and I also talked to the rec department, and they said, yeah, there's like two, 3 cars that have permits that park there every day. I think a couple are from the law firm, and then he thought maybe one of the apartments had a permit, but that's pretty much the extent of it each day.
There's no time, like, years ago, I was in Girl Scouts leader, and they would have events there sometimes.
Mhm.
So where would then people need to park across the street in the city parking?
It depends on the time. I mean, if it was during a regular day, they could park in the yellow area there or across the street at the 400 West lot.
We're talking a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
yes, so yeah, I would say the 400 West lot then across the street would probably be the overflow parking. However, the permit parking, they could also park there if it's after 6 PM and those stalls aren't leased. So that's not.
It's usually like Saturday.
Yeah, well then they could park
Saturday.
anywhere in the lot if it's Saturday.
Oh, okay, great.
Any other questions? Call the roll, please.
Staple,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Merritt,
Aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Esslinger.
Aye.
Item number 5, parking regulations in the Grand South lot.
Yeah, and this again is similar to the previous, but I talked to one of the business owners in that area that said that they have up to 10 employees with permits, that they need stalls at various times, so they were concerned about there wasn't enough permit parking in this lot. It's the one that's right next to right behind the transit center, right across from the Grand. So I did also surveil that lot, and there's plenty of parking in that lot every day. So to convert these additional 10 stalls to permit parking shouldn't affect anything, and it should help this business owner with the permits. And that's what the goal of the recent changes was to get more business owners to buy permits for their employees and get them out of the customer parking and into the permit parking. So this seems to align with that goal.
All right, can someone move this?
So moved.
So moves?
I have a question.
All seconds, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. So I go to the Grand for different events, so that wouldn't affect, and they're always more than 2 hours.
Right.
So, but because it's usually evening, it
Yep.
would be okay?
It doesn't affect on the evenings. It's
Perfect.
9 to 6 on weekdays.
Okay.
Jim, why take the center row and not go along the edge where it currently is, but on the other side of the 222 building?
Yep, because the request was to get them a little bit closer to where the businesses are.
Oh,
So it's again, goes back to one of the issues we have in the city, which is a walking issue, but because they're not heavily utilized, I don't have a problem with that. And another answer to that question with the Grand events is we do work with the Grand. Whenever they have events during the day, they'll contact me and the police lieutenant and ask if that enforcement could be relaxed for 2 hours if they got a performance with the high school kids at 4 PM or something like that. So we generally work with them on those type of events.
right. Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Staple,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Merritt,
Aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Esslinger.
Aye.
All right, item number 6, update parking regulations in the 200 West lot.
Yeah, this is again a similar issue. This actually was a business that is actually on the east side of Main Street. So with the increased enforcement, there currently is a lack of, well, there are some permit stalls, but they're heavily utilized on the east side of the street. So that's the 200 East lot. So I worked with this particular business, and they said they don't mind with their buying the permits and having some of their employees park on the west side of the street. They just have to cross the street, but they needed a couple additional stalls. So again, that parking lot right now is also underutilized because the building adjacent to it is currently vacant, and about half the lot is generally pretty empty. When I've been going by there every day, it seems like the business owners, employees that have permits are basically who's there every day. So they needed a couple more stalls, so that's why I recommended we designate a few more stalls there in that lot.
Is that for the attorney's office?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Just one question that I have. So we're talking about the Klein's building or whatever we call
Yeah.
it that's empty now, right?
Right.
Parking to whoever does anything with that building, assuming it stays a building, is going to be key. If somebody is looking at dumping some money in and doing something with that building, they would be welcome to come back and revisit this, because I'm assuming they also, do they own the lot or does the bank own the lot? Do you know?
That lot, actually, the bank owns it.
Okay, well then maybe it isn't an issue. I'm just thinking, to sell that building or do something with the building, they're gonna need parking, and I don't wanna do anything that
Yeah.
takes a major structure downtown and doesn't get it looking nice.
Right.
But they could come back and ask
Yeah.
this to be revisited.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that'll get to the next item, but yes, that lot is currently owned by the bank, and the city leases it, and we pay the taxes on it. And it's been that way for a long time.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second, I believe. With all these items, I lose track of where the heck we are. All right. Any other comments? Call the roll, please.
Staple,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Merritt,
Aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Esslinger.
Item number 7. Before we do that, I was going to ask Jim to clarify something for me, and maybe you all know this, but I didn't. 'Cause I had a business owner talk to me today about parking for employees by purchasing permits, and I went online to look at what are the options, and it looks like you can buy permits and you can lease. Leases are more expensive, but it didn't jump out at me what the difference was between them and what restrictions are there on the permit versus a lease.
Sure. So the permit is, it's a hunting permit. So if you have a permit, you can park in any permit stall in any of the city parking lots that are designated as permit stalls. And those are enforced, I believe I can't remember if it's 8 or 9, but till 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. They're not enforced on weekends.
But you're not guaranteed there will be a spot anywhere
Right.
for you.
Yep,
It's just a
exactly.
hunting permit.
Right. Whereas a leased stall means that you leased that particular space.
Okay.
And there are 2 types of leases. There's a daytime only lease, and then there's a 24-hour lease. The one we most recently introduced is the 24-hour lease, and that's more popular with, the landlords that have tenants that need a spot to park 24 hours a day, so that's why they're more expensive. We currently only have one entity that leases daytime stalls, and that's the county. They lease some stalls across the street from the county building. And those are daytime only. And the thinking on the daytime only is because they don't need them at night, obviously, and they're like, somebody should use them if they can after those hours, whereas the 24-hour leases are mostly like tenants and people that need those all the time. Or like a hair salon that's open 6 days a week and wants to ensure that they got a stall for their clients, they also lease the 24-hour stall.
Okay. Now, the permit, you can't two people can't share the same permit. They can only be
Right.
one permit per person.
Right.
Okay.
That's currently how it works, and that is, we are currently looking at some different types of parking software. I know that's one of the things that council would like to see, and I know that a lot of departments would as well, that would allow for, to apply for permits online, as well as then it would allow some possibly enforcement by plate. And then that's going to be a council decision at that point in time too, whether permits can be shared between different household members, different vehicles or not. They have a way to do that, I guess.
So it's specific to the person, not to the vehicle? The
Right.
permit?
Well, currently, they do take the vehicle information down, but currently it's a hang tag, so I don't believe that the police would know whether it's with one vehicle or not, and they could technically check that, but I don't think they currently do. But that's one of the questions that we're gonna answer
I was
hopefully
just thinking of
shortly.
spouses,
Right.
like the husband, it might be in his name, but the wife, or family.
Right. Currently, it's a visual validation that you have a permit in the window.
Okay,
So it can move to different vehicles,
It could.
yeah. Okay.
all right. So, Jim, to the item which is allowing you or a designee to change parking stall designations, I think.
Sure. So this is something that one of the council members has talked to me about for a little while now and wanted to see if we could do this prior to the parking study. And the reasoning is basically the first 3 requests before this, he said, well, why wouldn't we allow you to, as demand dictates, like if a stall is underutilized and somebody wants to buy a permit and there's not an issue with that because we know that it's not heavily utilized, why can't you just change that to a permit stall? Or if somebody, I currently have the ability, and we took care of that with the last round, to go from a permit to a leased stall or from a leased to permit stall. But he thought that in the last go around, we also should have included the ability to go between, a 2-hour stall and a permit stall or vice versa based on lot utilization. So I think I'm okay with that. It's obviously gonna bring some more responsibility to make sure that, that my department monitors that and make sure that they're well utilized. But the benefit to that would be that it would be done more quickly and it wouldn't go through like now, like the previous 3 items. If we want to change like 1 or 2 stalls, it's got to come to the committee and it's got to go to council for 2 readings. So it's a 6-week process minimally before that happens. So I thought I'd bring it to you guys first, get your thoughts, and then it'll go. If you think it's a good idea, then it'll go to council to get their thoughts.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a motion on this?
Move it.
Second.
Okay.
The only input I would give is I always, if you have all good people working on stuff now, I always picture what happens if we don't have somebody good there. I like to have a little ring fencing that, you're not changing by more than 10% or 25% or something in a lot without getting some more input. That would be the only thing that because rules are written for when bad things happen, not for when you've got all good people involved.
Exactly.
But at that point, it could come to the committee if anything got.
Yeah, then you gotta take it back. It'd be better, I think I'd better have a ring fence there to,
Okay.
that's just my thought. But you're right, absolutely, it could come back.
My thinking was an annual or 6-month report from the director on what changes have been made.
Yeah.
And then we can accept that report, and by accepting the report, we still are managing it, but it's not
That
day
would
to
do-
day.
That would do the same thing that
Yeah.
I'm looking for, just.
Yeah, we could do that.
So does that have to be part of the motion? That,
There'd have to be an amendment to the motion.
I don't feel strongly enough to amend for mine, but it'll be in the minutes too, so.
Well,
Because you are just looking for input now, right? Or are you actually,
I'm looking for a recommendation. And then
Okay.
I'll bring it to
And that would then
council.
go to the council, and
Right.
okay.
so
I would move we amend it to include Al's thoughts about reporting back.
Second.
you want it 6 months or a year?
I don't care.
I don't either. Why don't we do it a year? So you're moving to amend the motion to add a report to the committee for their acceptance once a year. We need a second on that.
Second.
Oh, Paul, I'm sorry. I told you I was listening to track. So we'll have to vote on the amendment first and then on the full motion, I believe. So are we ready to vote? All right. Call the roll on the amendment.
Staple,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Merritt,
aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Essinger.
Aye.
Now, the full motion. Any other discussion on the full motion?
As amended.
As amended. Thank you. All right, seeing none, call the roll, please.
Staple,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Merritt,
Aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Essinger.
Aye.
All right. Item number 8, update parking regulations on Nebraska Street and 10th Avenue.
Yeah, as you can see, I've been busy with parking for the last month or so. But, this one was a request from the Grace Lutheran Church and School. I met with their principal and their pastor, and we kind of went over some of the issues that they're having. They have a host of activities at both the church and school, and they've, since enforcement's been increased a little bit, they've had a couple issues. I also heard from quite a few parents, so I heard from a lot of people on this. So I went and met with the administrator, and we kind of went through what would make sense. There's currently some 10-minute parking here. Excuse me, I'm in the wrong one. Here in front of the school and the church. And what they are asking for is that be converted to 4-hour parking. They said basically that there's not really anyone else using this other than their patrons. And I did talk to them about if they thought a loading zone here would make sense, but they said actually they have an area over here that also can be used for some short-term parking, in that most of the parents then drop off here on 10th, which is another part of this item. But anyway, they thought that 4-hour parking here would suit their needs the best, and then over here on 10th, they said that's where more of the elementary parents drop their kids off. So we talked about a loading zone, and they said that the parents generally park for a short time, and a lot of them escort their kids into the school. So they liked the idea of a 30-minute parking here better. So to meet their needs, and they thought that 4-hour parking would also help them when they had church events on, so that they could utilize this on Nebraska. So they said with the 4-hour here and 30-minute on 10th, they thought that would meet their needs, and they did. Obviously, they are the majority of the stakeholders in this area. There's not really any residents or anything that park on those sides of the street. I did talk to them a little bit about it. I said, we really want to leave the parking regulations on this side of the street. So this will clear that corner there. This will still stay as it is, and it'll be available for these residents. And then this will be short-term 30-minute parking, and then on Nebraska it'll be 4-hour parking. I did warn them though. I said, at that 4-hour parking on Nebraska, I said, you could have parents park there, for however long, and or your neighbors could park there. They weren't concerned about that. So this is what they thought would best meet their needs, and I don't have an issue with that because I think those are, like I said, those are the stakeholders on those 2 blocks.
Is there parking on the other side of the street of Nebraska? So those few houses there can park in front of there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, when I went by today, the school had orange cones out on Nebraska in that 4-hour spot, it looked like. So
Where it was 10, where they want the 4-hour over here.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where the orange cones were.
Okay.
Move approval.
Second.
Mr. Staple moves, Mr. Esselnier seconds. Any other conversation about these parking regulations? Okay. Call the roll, please.
Staple,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Merritt,
Aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Esslinger.
Aye.
All right. The paratransit study presentation by East Central.
Yeah, all right, so we have the East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, so we have Kate Blackburn and Craig Mosher here. I'll just give you a little bit of background, and then we'll turn it over to her, and she has a short presentation. But some of you know, some of you might not be aware, but Go Transit, we currently contract for paratransit service. So that is the service for those individuals that can't use the fixed route bus due to disability or other reasons. We have a contract currently with our vendors here in the Oshkosh City Cab. That contract is a 3-year contract with 2 1-year options. So the 3-year contract's up at the end of this year. So we're evaluating if we want to continue that or if we want to put it out for request for proposals. You know, and we think either way that technology and software could be greatly improved, which improve the service for our riders. Historically, we've had minimal interest or proposals. We get one, maybe two, in this providing this service. So we ask East Central to help us evaluate our service model, how we can maybe make it more attractive if we're not taking it in-house, and that's one of the things they looked at as well. So this is the study that East Central put together for us. So I will turn it over to Kate.
Hello. So I'm Kate Blackburn with East Central, as Jim just stated. In starting to work on this project, I first wanted to identify, just in case anyone wasn't aware, what is federally required for a paratransit program. So we don't have to go through all these, just kind of, if you're curious, you can look back. So to start out our study, we kind of contacted some peer cities across the region, and we ended up speaking with Eau Claire, Fond du Lac, and Sheboygan. Of the three, Eau Claire was the only one that had their paratransit services contracted out in a turnkey fashion, which means that the vendor ran the full operation, and Eau Claire was kind of mostly predominantly hands-off. Fond du Lac and Sheboygan both ran their services in-house. And then Sheboygan alone had their own software, and Fond du Lac was just running theirs with pen and paper. So some notable things, since this is a lot of information that I wanted to just point out briefly, is that all of these services are operated only during normal fixed route hours, whereas currently Oshkosh is being operated 24/7. Even the booking is available 24/7, which is unique. All of these other cities that we spoke with only have booking possible, even through the app, within normal business hours. Another thing I wanted to point out is that they are all operating with very comparable ridership to what Oshkosh is operating. Due to the fact that Fond du Lac and Sheboygan are running their operations in-house, they don't have quite as large of a coverage area. Eau Claire, like Oshkosh, is operating their services countywide, but I don't think that is necessarily feasible when running operations in-house, just due to the commitment and everything that goes into it. So some things that we learned from speaking with the peer cities that would improve overall service is that there is a need for live tracking and constant communication with drivers. This allows more efficient scheduling. And better on-time performance and ultimately higher quality of service. And additionally, the other cities all had cameras on board their vehicles, which greatly reduced the number of incidents. When we asked them about it, they said they had virtually no complaints. So just things to think about moving forward that could overall improve Oshkosh's operations. So we looked at 3 different scenarios, the first of which was purchasing software and then issuing an RFP for another vendor. The problem with this is it would allow full control of the software, but it may act as a deterrent for other vendors to bid on the RFP. There's some compatibility issues if a vendor already has their own software. It would take extra effort on their part to make those compatible if compatibility was possible at all. So scenario 2 is purchasing software and bringing it in-house. This is definitely a possibility. After speaking with Sheboygan, they definitely were able to make that possible. They did, however, have facilities already owned when they brought those operations in-house, which is something that Oshkosh does not currently have. That would make it more difficult. There was quite a bit of trial and error process that they underwent. It took upwards of 6 months for them to kind of get it functioning smoothly, and they had to run it with normal fixed route buses in that time. There are additional costs, such as insurance, I don't know, a lot of things that go into it that it's hard to know until you're actually in that scenario. So the third scenario is just adjusting the service and then issuing an RFP, and then hoping that bigger vendors will bid on it. We think this is the most opportunistic scenario, with some adjustments. Based on talking with various vendors, there is interest out there. It seems like the biggest issue is the 24-hour service. So given that one of the scenarios is bringing operations in-house, we put together just a few very general cost estimates that are in no way all-inclusive. They only consider the purchasing of software, the one-time purchasing of software, which is, there's also like a yearly maintenance fee, the purchasing of facilities, of land, and of vehicles. So a general cost range for just these 4 things is between 4 million and nearly 14 million, which I think the 14 million is still maybe a bit low, given that it only considers those 4 things. So, moving to the possibility of issuing an RFP and adjusting the services to be more attractive. Some of these things, after speaking with the vendors, have been identified as deterrents, most notably the 24/7 service. That was pretty much across the board. Other considerations is that based on the TDP, the Transit Development Plan, which SRF Consulting conducted within the past year, there is interest within the community for a microtransit program. Not that that would happen right now, but contracting out would make it more possible, and it would allow for commingling, which is definitely more attractive for vendors. Anything that could basically increase ridership. So I threw together this chart to just kind of compare Oshkosh's paratransit operating hours with those peer cities kind of across the state, and they're listed in order of population size. So as you can see, Oshkosh is the only one that offers 24/7 service, even if it is at a slightly increased price. Even Milwaukee, Madison, and Green Bay are only operating their services about the same as the fixed route. So, did you have a question?
I'll wait.
Okay, sorry. So this is average ride counts by 30-minute increments for the month of May, as an example. And then the box indicates the fixed route span. So if hours for the paratransit were to be reduced to just cover that fixed route span, there would not be a significant loss of ridership. And then for those trips that fall outside of that, if those were work trips that a paratransit rider was using the service for, they would then qualify for the Access to Jobs program. So then the Access to Jobs program ridership on a separate chart, it's basically working like we would expect, with the majority of the ridership outside of those fixed route hours. So lastly, we just kind of compared the different scenarios together based on what we think would increase attractiveness or be most attractive to vendors, the cost of implementing, the ease of implementing, and then some of those opportunities for the future services that came out of the TDP. So as you can see, adjusting the services to be more attractive and issuing an RFP has generally the most opportunity, with the most green dots and least red dots, whereas purchasing software and bringing it in-house would definitely, it would decrease opportunity, you most likely wouldn't be able to continue countywide services, and if you did, it would be a substantial strain. So overall, there are opportunities to increase attractiveness of the service that would make it more attractive to other vendors, especially reducing hours to from 24/7 to more closely align with the fixture system. Are there questions?
This is way too fast to get it through. I mean, I could only read maybe half a page at a time. But one question I do have, what's the consideration, well, in fact, on the one about the paratransit operating hours, so they are operating on Saturday and Sunday now? Because the fixed route, Oshkosh fixed route does not run on Sunday,
Correct.
but the paratransit does?
The paratransit does. The
Nice.
paratransit is operating countywide and 24/7, which is unique. They're only required to provide a comparable service to the fixed route system. So within 3/4 mile of the fixed route system, and then any islands that fall in between that, where it's kind of just a lump, and then during the fixed route hours, and then at a discounted rate.
How much of advance do they need to reserve a ride for paratransit?
Day before. Basically 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Within business hours for the next day?
Yeah.
Unless it's subscription.
Yeah, so they can subscribe, and there's also will calls from medical facilities that don't require any kind of call setup.
Yeah, so subscription means if you need a ride to the same place, every day.
Especially work, if it's a
for
work situation.
next
Every day
week,
it's
you
set
could
up.
set,
Yeah.
you could set that up a week in advance. But if it's just one ride, then it's a day before, unless you're returning from a medical appointment, because then you don't know, obviously, what time you're gonna be done, and those will call, which means you just call and let us know when you're done. But the vast majority of transit systems match their paratransit hours, so they're fixed or all.
Is there a way to, so this is current ridership, is there a way to know how many people, the potential that there are additional people who could use this service, but it's not working for them? Based on location or whatever, is there ever been I don't know, maybe there aren't any, I don't know.
For paratransit riders that aren't
Paratransit.
able to use it?
Yeah,
I mean, it currently operates throughout the whole county, so anyone that qualifies and applies would be able to book a ride anytime.
The only reason that anybody would not be able to is if they didn't qualify. That means they don't have a certified medical condition or,
they're not at the right, not at the age or going to a job.
right. As long, that would be the only way they wouldn't, is if there's some reason they didn't qualify, and then, you know, obviously.
Access to jobs has hours and income requirements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But paratransit, it's very rare that you wouldn't be able to use that service unless you didn't have a medical condition or something that qualifies you for that service.
A million years ago, Oshkosh also used to have something that you could just get discounted cab rides. Is that now this, or is there still also a program out there that you can
There
get?
is not through us. I don't know if City Cab might have something. I know, and then obviously, I think they have some agreement with it. The Tavern League has something, but that's not associated with us either.
So Jim, I may be confusing this with another service, but didn't we have a problem in the past of finding vendors to be interested in this?
That's exactly what the
Yes.
issue is.
Yes.
Because I thought you said vendors are interested. That's,
Vendors are interested if we were to reduce the hours and do a couple other things
so
to make it more
that's the
attractive.
sticking point, the 24/7.
Right, yeah. When we talked to them, that was kind of the big issue all the way across. We did speak to like a previous vendor as well and kind of asked them like what were the major issues you encountered during your time providing this service, and that was the big one.
So my memory isn't.
So Jim, what would you like from us today?
For today, we just wanted to present the information, give you some time to think about it, and then we'll bring it back at one of the, probably either October or November meeting to get a formal recommendation. But we're thinking that we are probably gonna recommend that we match our paratransit hours to fixed route. And then the hope with that would be that we would be more attractive to some other vendors. And then it would give us an opportunity, we believe, as well, if there is that demand to expand the fixed route hours. What not a lot, but some communities are doing now is they will then, that vendor will then provide microtransit service for them after hours. And so if we got a vendor in here that was capable of doing both, that would give us the opportunity to maybe provide microtransit during some of the hours we don't operate. We don't know that for sure, but that's a possibility. But we also think that this would improve the service to our current riders because we've had the current contractor for a while, and then at one point we had one doing ambulatory, one doing non-ambulatory. But we believe that we need to improve the technology for our riders and the software, which will improve the service. And we do believe we need to get some increased competition so that we can improve the quality of service. And I think, Steve, you can jump in if I missed anything.
Yeah, I guess to sum it up, we feel our paratransit riders deserve more. A lot of things come into play. We touched basically on microtransit. Anything that's brought up about the growth of our transit system, most agencies are going to the microtransit model, using cabs or vans instead of running buses around. So it's a way for us to expand service area, to expand service hours, most cost efficient way. When you look at the 24/7 coverage, your first reaction, Ms. Martin, hey, that's great. It is great. Unfortunately, it reduces our competition, and nobody wants to bid outside the two companies within the city. So what does that mean? It means our data is horrible. Moses had better technology than what we're running with right now. Our riders deserve the ability to see where their cab is, to schedule their appointments online. The data is very unreliable. We need the ability to get better software, be it through the turnkey and with the new vendor that might come in, or if we take that in-house. But we have a lot of data issues. A lot of things aren't passing the sniff test right now. Our numbers are showing, and it's an Excel spreadsheet. It's easy to be corrupted, right? So we're showing on-time numbers that are biblically awesome off the charts, and it doesn't seem right. And again, it goes back to our riders deserve more. Formal reporting, we're going back to the data, not very accurate. We have to report federally numbers, and we're not confident that our numbers are all that accurate. Cameras on cabs, we have instances where we've had complaints of and this is our most vulnerable portion of society, elderly, the ADA. There's reports of intimidation by drivers. We have incidents of behavior issues or whatever. If we had the camera, we'd be much better able to police all these things. And all these things tie all together in, is it possible? Not under the way we're currently operating right now. We can't do 24/7. And if you look at it from the flip side, it's great for those to take advantage of it, but is it fair to the fixed route riders? They don't have 24/7 coverage. There's people who depend on the transit system, on the buses to get around. And for an equity issue, we always look at it one way, but that goes both ways, right? So it should be equal, and the best way to accomplish that is through the microtransit model. And as it stands right now, we can't do it.
So as a follow-up question, I'm not sure who this is to. It looks like over half of the communities shown here do something on Sunday. Is that because their fixed route also operates on Sunday, and they have to match that for the federal thing? So then, would that be part of you're looking big picture that might be where the microtransit might come? Those might be micro routes on Sunday, or something to get more opportunity. Yep,
Sunday. So obviously quality of life issues if you want to visit. There's even from work. It's we go hours on this thing and we run out of time, but it's yes, to match our hours. We could expand service coverage, service area, if we had the ability to not run buses and maybe expand our program and our hours, but not through fixed route, but through the ability to do microtransit, and there's no way we can do it staffed right now.
There's just one concern, because I agree, I like the data, and that's really important, but many elderly people don't use a computer. So how will they communicate? But they all probably use a phone.
Yeah.
But, you know.
You can still phone. I mean, we're not gonna, you know, it's not all or nothing. It's just an opportunity for those who are tech savvy to be able, instead of, I mean, so here's another issue that we haven't discussed yet. It gets busy and phone lines get tied up, and staffing issues. A lot of times our writers, you know, get stuck on, we've worked a lot with our current vendor to navigate through times, you know, answering something as simple as answering machines, right? But it would be great if you could just pick up your phone and just schedule a ride and it's confirmed. Currently, there's homes that'll fax, and then you at least with your online you can see it. You know, a lot of times people aren't getting responded to. So there's a lot of things we can do from a data perspective that will make us a much more attractive service to our riders.
Yeah, and I think, and like Steve said, I mean, whether it's, you know, it could be a current vendor, it could be a different vendor, but we're looking at ways that we can improve our service for the community. And we think that if we put out an RFP, we'll have to agree on what those parameters are, but we can say, here's the RFP, here's what the parameters are, and then we can get proposals and evaluate them on the merits of what we need. And there are potential then to do some of those things like microtransit on Sunday. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it means it's potential, whereas now I don't think we even have the potential to do it. So right now, like I said, we want to present information, give you something to think about, and then we'll have to bring it back for a formal recommendation. Then ultimately would have to go to council if we do move forward.
I'd just like to say thanks for looking outside the box to try to see if there's a win-win out here to give the paratransit and the regular transit people better service.
Yeah.
Thank you for exploring that.
It's also another not morbid, but we need to think long term. And our current vendor, the owners of that company are getting any younger. Long term, if they fall out of the equation, we don't have much left. If they're gone, what do we have? We had another vendor that put in, but for 3 years for the same service, it cost the city $440,000 more for the same contract than it did for the one we currently have. So I think, okay, but if we get more vendors in here, make that more attractive, that could also, you know, save us money in addition to providing better service.
Well, I think the best service would be if you ran it, because I think our bus service is good. And then you'd have total control. I see those big numbers, but I think like you said, relying on outside vendors at some point, it doesn't matter. You can yell at them all you want, but you got what you got. So, I mean, I think we should, if we want to go to a long term, it might be a 5-year, 10-year goal. I'm not saying it's this round, but I think our city, the people that are running Go Transit and so on, know it best and would do the best for the people in the county. But we'd probably then would go after county support for this too.
Also like to think that we'd be a more attractive, we'd like to be a more attractive employer. We might get better quality drivers, and I think that increases our.
Yeah. I think it's the cost right now in the facility. We don't currently have room in our facility, and so Sheboygan's a good example. They were actually contracted it out, and they were forced to go in-house because their contractor went out of business on short notice. So that's where they scrambled to take it in-house, and it ended up working out, but they did have a few more resources than we do. However, yeah, it's something to think about. I mean, I don't know that council has the extra 14 million right now, but.
Well, that's really my question. I mean, I know there's numbers here, but I mean, help me, how do you budget for this on a yearly basis? I mean, we've got, you know, the reassessment, and I can just tell you, coming down the road, that's messed up. So we got some issues there. We're staring at a $195 million referendum from the school district, adding 14 million here. The possibility of adding another ambulance at $800,000. I mean, these are all great things, but we need to seriously, we can't just do everything that everyone wants because it's a good thing.
Well, that's why I think putting it on the city's forward plan, because the city has a 10-year plan. So getting it out there for discussion and for thought through. I agree, it's not possible.
The nice thing about transit is federal government funds the vast majority of this. So this would have to be done through a lot of grant work. If we articulated this through, green vehicles, the odds of us getting a lot of these grants are greatly enhanced. So that ultimately, there's no way we could probably get around it, to answer your question, without federal assistance on that. And obviously, we try to get ahead of that now before it's an emergency and, we got a gun to our head. But yeah, that's something I agree, but it's something I think federally I think we can do. And then once it's into our annual budget, I think the money's there. It's just how they split the cake.
Yeah, but we've talked a lot about that in-house and short-term, and that's why we had East Central help us with an analysis, and I think everybody came to the conclusion that short-term, what can we do to improve our service, or what can we do to make the service that we're requesting a proposal for more attractive so we get more competition and that we can improve the quality of the service? How do we do that? And that's short-term, it's going to be to contract it out. Long-term, that might be a different scenario.
So, at a meeting coming forward, go ahead.
I just have one more question for you. So a lot of the cities I go to are huge cities, so let's move it into small cities. They have the government-run service, and they've got also all kinds of private services running around. Have you seen that in a smaller city ever work, or is it just not enough ridership to make the numbers work for just private companies that run vans that might take 12 people or 8 people or something? And how hard is it to get into that with all the regulation and licensing?
So you're asking if I've seen
It work in
smaller
a city
cities?
under 100,000. I mean, I can see where it works in a city with 2 million or 5 million or whatever, but in a small
For paratransit operations to be run in-house, or for a private company?
whether it's paratransit, whatever it is, just some sort of transit but not run. So a privately owned. I don't know if that works in a smaller population base.
Not to jump in, but I think I think a lot of that is competition, right? So the smaller your market, the less competition there is, which is one of the reasons why we need to do this, to make ourselves more attractive, to get outside companies that want to come into the Oshkosh area and help us out. So a perfect example of this would be, one glaring hole, this would be access to jobs. And that we really need a 24/7. So maybe that's a separate contract. And then you have, another vendor, private vendor, like you say, can handle the access to jobs, and handle that 24/7, or do the main, thrust of our paratransit program during transit hours.
Yeah, but I think to answer your question, that doesn't really happen because, some smaller cab companies, obviously, before Uber and Lyft and all those things were able to make a go of it. It's much more difficult now. It's more popular to see the ride-sharing apps where people provide their own vehicles and they're contractors. But that is the whole reason why we are funded the way we are, because even in Oshkosh, fixed route transit was run. It was privatized for a few years, but it just wasn't profitable. So that's where the government stepped, like the government does for a lot of things. It's a needed service, but it's not something that the private industry is willing to take on because it's not profitable. So then it becomes a government responsibility, and it's similar with paratransit. And I think, there's basically the services they provide are like for us, which is the paratransit, but then they also do non-emergency medical transportation, which the state contracts with a logistics company that hires then local companies to provide that service. So there are some companies out there that do that type of service, but they all do them through a government contract because otherwise they wouldn't be able to make it without those subsidies.
Okay. Thank you.
What he said.
Thank you for the report. So Jim, this will come back to us. And
Yes, so
my assumption is it's going to be a proposal that
Yes.
is for same time period as our regular transit, and
Yes, we're gonna look into this in a little bit more detail, but we want to get the information out there, and then we will obviously have to do a formal agenda item and then notice it as such before you guys would make a recommendation, and then we would take that to council. But we are hoping to do that sometime yet this year. Like I said, we have a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options. I'm thinking this is going to take a little bit of time. It'll if we do change the service model and request additional proposals, we probably would be looking at the service improvements, I'm guessing in the spring. It's just not enough time for the staff by the end of the year. So we would plan on working with our current contractor and seeing, explaining to them the situation and what the plans are. And then, and like I said, hopefully they'd be willing to provide a proposal as well, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Okay, thank you. Staff statements, we got a ridership update, we got the numbers on that.
We'll keep it real short. Ridership is up over 2023. Overall program ridership's up 9.6%. Fixed route ridership up just about 14%. The big thing we've gone through this past month was student IDs. We've issued 657 student IDs. Staff has put in 131 staff hours going out to the schools. Different programs that schools have, from open houses, Chromebook, to back to school fairs. So 131 staff hours. So I really tip my hat and thank the staff that put in all that extra time, and even the ones that weren't out at the schools took on the extra burden of all the office duties while everybody was out. So no small endeavor. So we got close to 700 students registered in the program so far, and anticipate that'll go up very quickly. I think we still got a couple of stragglers out there and a bunch of temporary passes. Kids never seem to get the message, so hopefully we'll probably be over 700 by the time we meet next.
Thank you.
Oh, and then we got the Wisco electronic card reader system update. So we're getting there. We have about half of them installed. We've got them connected now. So we're just working on dialing in the last half of those. We should be able to start testing them with the students using their IDs here in the next week or two. And then we are thinking by the end of the month they should be good to go. So right now we're thinking October 1st we might be able to have that live. Pending how the testing goes, we're going to let the students test them for a little bit first, and then if it all goes well, then we can start selling electronic fares in October. We will still take paper passes until at least the end of the year, so there'll be a time transition period where we'll be doing both the old school way and the new school way so that people can get used to the new system.
Okay. Jim?
Just have a quick question on the bus numbers. What happened to parochial 6 through 12? Are they not eligible anymore?
No. They were originally part of the program, and the school district decided not to. They can make their own arrangements. We've had Lords kind of reach out a little bit here and there, and
so basically the school district, when we renewed the contract, they did talk to Lourdes and asked them, and the other private school, and asked them if they were interested in participating, and they decided that they would just purchase bus passes for the students they had because they didn't think that they had as much of a demand as the public schools did. So that was what was decided between the school districts.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I've had some people contacting me that aren't really comfortable with the electronic, and they're low-income people that maybe don't have a computer that works at their house, kind of thing. So where will they be able to have a card, or how will they be able to pay for their rides?
so there's you come to like they do now. They go to the transit center office.
The one off of Whitso they have to go to?
You go there. You can go to the library.
The library.
You can go to the city hall. So the same venues they have basically now. We'll also be expanding to some vendors like CVS.
Family Dollar, Walgreens. So they'll actually have more options. So they currently have the options of coming to our office on Dempsey Trail, City Hall, or the library.
Yeah.
The new system has Wisco, which is Umo's the vendor that powers that software, but they're actually they have a national contract with Walgreens, CVS, and Family Dollar.
Family Dollar.
So all those locations will
Nice.
they will be able to purchase fare there as well, and they'll sell the cards as well. So they'll have a number of options. And then obviously there's always still the old school cash option as well.
They'll still be able to put cash in
Yep.
Yep.
at the bus?
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
right.
Appreciate it.
we know an agenda item regarding the bus stop by the house on Washington. Jim, I just had one question. I thought I read that we got a grant, somebody got a grant to put a pedestrian walk over 41. Is that true?
Yes, so there's been a number of news articles on that, but we were awarded a Safe Streets for All grant for $8 million to construct a pedestrian bridge over Highway 41. So that's really exciting. We've worked for a few years. I'll give you just the 1 minute history of it. So that bridge has been in the bike and pedestrian plan since the first draft of that was, I think it was around 2011 or 12, and that was updated in 2019. A few years ago, we worked with Strand Associates to come up with a concept and a possible location that would allow us to be eligible for future grant opportunities. And then we actually worked with the East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission over the last couple of years. There was a comprehensive safety action plan that was required in order to be eligible to apply for the Safe Streets for All grants. So they were able to identify through that study with the stakeholders and us and a number of parties that this was a need and that there was a demonstrated safety need. So we took that data, and then actually our former community development director, Ellen Davis, who consulted with the city to help put together a grant application. So we submitted that, and we just found out recently that we were awarded that. So that's pretty exciting.
Well, congratulations. Obviously good work on your part and other people in the city to make that happen, so.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty popular. It'll be great for a number of reasons, but it'll connect the bike and pedestrian infrastructure, improve the safety for bike and pedestrians. I know that of you that have been here for years, we've heard for years that how difficult roundabouts can be for bikes and pedestrians. I think they are awesome for vehicles. They move traffic, they've reduced severity and injuries. However, they are a little bit difficult to navigate for bikes and pedestrians. And then all those interchanges with 41 are extremely busy. This will give an opportunity for both visitors and residents to connect from the east and west side and vice versa over 41 if they're not in a vehicle, and it also improves accessibility as well. So I think it's going to be a great addition. It's currently planned somewhere in the area of Taft and then touching down on the west side across from there. And that location is currently scoring pretty high due to the connectivity. It's a direct connection to the Oshkosh West High School, to the Pollock Pool, to the Red Arrow Park. So there's a number of destinations and origins that would connect well to, and it's kind of centrally located to get through the middle of the city. So yeah, I think obviously we'll be working with the public as well as council over the next year or two to make that happen.
That's great.
Congratulations. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah, it was quite a effort between all the city entities, Public Works, Community Development, Transportation, as well as with East Central's help, and then the East Central's Comprehensive Safety Action Plan Committee, which included some other communities as well, the towns. So yeah,
That's great.
very exciting.
Well, in East Central, thank you for the presentation today and for your help with the new bridge. Any other agenda items for next? Mr. Eslinger?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like the staff to take a look at the intersection of Bowen and New York. There's a traffic light there. And I've gone down Bowen, I hardly ever go down New York there. But I go down Bowen and I have to stop at the light there, and there's never anyone coming from the other way. So I don't know if that meets any warrants, or it just seems silly to be there. And I mean, if it's needed, if it's warranted, that's fine. And I don't know if with the new work that we're going to do on Bowen in the not too distant future, if that means anything or not. But
Sure. Yep, we can take a look at that.
Thank you.
So, Paul, are you thinking that the light isn't needed, or the timing's just wrong?
No, the light, I don't think is needed.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? If not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. You guys are the kings of moving and seconding
Trying to
today.
move things along. We didn't succeed today. but-
Movers and shakers.
Good roll, yeah.